Hey, so if you watch my videos, you've noticed that I've had a lot of time to tinker with the Steam Deck, to play around with different configurations, to see the strengths and weaknesses of it. And over that time, I've really sort of come to have my own personal opinion about what I'd like to see moving forward that the Steam Deck and Valve optimize to make it the best experience possible. And I've come up with my personal top three. Now, these top three are not going to be things like better battery life, changing the hardware in any way, the screen, etc. There's a million videos like that. The Steam Deck 2, when it comes out, is obviously going to be better battery life. It's going to have a OLED screen. All of those things are on the way, and Valve is, at its core, really a hardware company. Gabe Newell says so himself. So this is going to be other things that are a little bit more software oriented that I think that are currently sort of issues that I'd like to see them build on and really make the Steam Deck as awesome as it possibly can. So number one might be the biggest long shot, and that's because Valve makes the overwhelming majority of their money through people buying games on Steam, and it's the entire reason that the Steam Deck can be priced so much lower than its other competitors for handheld PC gaming. And number one is embracing external game launchers, and the three biggest are Battle.net, the Epic Game Store, and GOG, right? So I know before you go into the comments that there's a million tutorials on how to set this up with the Heroic Launcher or adding non-Steam games directly with the executables. I'm fully aware that there are workarounds to get external game launchers running on the Steam Deck. I've done it myself. I have videos on exactly how to do that. I'm talking about official first-party support on SteamOS for you to play games that you have purchased on other launchers, right? So there are a couple issues with the current implementation and the improvements that I would personally like to see. So my number one beef is even after you install an external game launcher and you add it as a non-Steam game, you're bound by one single configuration before you go in there and you change it every time you want to play a game. So I'll give a personal example for myself. I played Diablo 4 and World of Warcraft on the Steam Deck, and those games for me have totally different controller configurations. Certain ones I've made, maybe I'll download somebody's community configuration. Having to switch controller configurations is an additional step that I personally would not like to have to really worry about. And it would be nice if there was some kind of API that Valve could leverage that maybe, like, so for instance, Epic or Battle.net makes available to them, or they make a business partnership, they do some kind of thing first party to make it as seamless as possible for you to play specific games that are only available in other launchers that are not available on Steam. And that would include things like allowing you to have a per game performance profile that changes for each one of those games. So like right now, I have a Battle.net performance profile that is shared between all the games on Battle.net's client, right, on their launcher. So Diablo 4 and World of Warcraft, I'd have to change that each time and tinker with it if I wanted those to perform differently. And it's the same situation with the controller configurations, right? I want to have different controller configurations for different games that are in each launcher. So for instance, Battle.net, I want a different controller configuration for World of Warcraft and Diablo 4. So, maybe it's not realistic for Blizzard or Activision to work with them too. Maybe they see them as a competitor and they're the ones holding this up. Steam could give you an opportunity to not have to figure this out yourself, right? They could add official Battle.net entries into Steam that you could, if you weren't a tinkerer or something and you just got the Steam Deck, you wanted to play WoW, it would make it as easy as possible for you. It'd be a separate game entry in Steam so that you wouldn't have to tinker with changing controller configurations or performance configurations. I would really like to see that, right? I'd like to see Valve understand that people want to play games that they got in the Epic Store, right? Some games are only available in the Epic Store, or maybe they got them for free on the Epic Store. They have these games, they want to play it on the Steam Deck. And I think that Valve's philosophy is something that matches with that, right? They have an official video showing you how to open up the Steam Deck and install a different hard drive. So that is my number one, and I think that that's probably the longest shot. If something were to not be implemented, I think it is definitely this one. So on to number two. So this is the one that I personally am hoping, if I had to choose one of these, I would like this one to be the one that they prioritize, but I really want them to fix the bugs and issues that plague the controller configuration currently that have been around since the dawn of big picture mode. Some of the threads on bugs related to tinkering with controller configurations are 6-7 years old, and they're still annoying. So I'm talking about things like action sets not switching consistently when you trigger the action set through what you've configured. So for instance, if you want to press down on the trackpad and have press move to a new action set that fires off some button chord, and when you release it, it goes back to the default action set that is for tapping or something, complicated controller configurations that really lend themselves to having powerful Steam Deck experience with games like World of Warcraft, or if you're playing like an RTS game or something. Those bugs are annoying, and they have lasted for a very long time, right? So I'd really like to see them do something about that and figure out some way to fix it and officially, show that it's been fixed in like a developer update or something. The other thing is crashing, right? Now, this isn't specifically related to the controller configuration. When you're in the SteamOS menu during gaming, it can just trigger a crash for whatever reason. It seems to be slightly fragile. You'll notice this if you are playing a game and you go to connect your Bluetooth to a headset. The SteamOS overlay will flash as you're doing this. That has crashed for me quite often, right? Like 1 in every 20 or 30 times it'll crash. If I'm messing with the controller configuration back and forth, going back into the game to try to tinker with something and get it to work and test it, it's almost guaranteed to crash. It's only a matter of how long it's going to take for that to crash. I would really like them to fix that and figure that out. They could check the logs, see what caused the crash, things like that. But they're very smart developers. They built the entire thing. It'd be really nice for them to fix it. And then the other thing that's really annoying that you can find tons of threads on if you're interested is controller configuration saving. When you build a controller configuration, you spend time doing it, and then you just go to use it, and everything that you've just done is wiped completely. And then you go on the forum and you say, oh, well, maybe in a couple hours it'll come back. That's really unacceptable, right? I don't know what they need to do to fix that, but they need to do that. They need to figure out why people's controller configurations aren't saving, or if you make a virtual menu and it just disappears into the ether, you need to remake it 4 or 5 times. It's not good. And controller configuration is the core of it is so promising, and it's by far the most customizable controller configuration of any gaming console out there by a mile. And if they just fix a couple small things, it would be great. And it's really sort of disheartening to see when you go Google an issue that you're having with controller configuration to see a thread from 2017, right? I think that Valve is a company that could possibly hire somebody specifically for this and make it the best experience possible, and that's my number 2, and I really would like to see that. Okay, so for the third and final, this is actually something that Valve officially had stated that they're interested in doing, and was kind of a lot of the topic of many of the YouTube content creators when they were interviewing the people at Valve, asking them about the Steam Deck. This got brought up a bunch of times, and it seemed like it was something that was on the horizon that they were specifically pushing to get done. So I don't know what else to call it other than Steam Deck installs, but the basic gist of it would be similar to if you ever installed Diablo 4. So when you install Diablo 4, one of the settings that is made available to you during the installation is whether or not you want to include high definition assets, which is an enormous storage burden to do that. And it degrades the performance if you're not actually using the HD assets. So what I'm talking about is, let's say you want to install Horizon Zero Dawn, right? It's like 90 gigabytes or something like that. You're going to play this game at 800p, right? And you're probably going to play it at medium settings. So a lot of the content assets that are included in the packaged game don't need to be included if you're going to be playing this on the Steam Deck. And there are maybe every game could benefit from something like this, where you get a much smaller and a higher performing installation, compiled package of that game that's specifically tailored for running on the Steam Deck. That was something that they had mentioned officially through the interviews, and it was a little surprising to see that really never mentioned again, right? Maybe it's something they're keeping under the radar until they get a lot more developer buy-in or something, but I really was hoping that that would be a feature that they would have released by now at least. And then the other thing that I think that they could really embrace or figure out a way to do is getting Steam Deck official graphical setting configurations, right? So just like you can see, if you go in the community configs, you can look up controller configurations that you can download. It would be nice if they had some kind of API or way to add an INI file or something that allowed people to make community graphical setting configurations, or even have the developers give their official configuration, just like you see sometimes with controller configs, for the graphical settings for Steam Deck. Like let's say, for instance, that you didn't really care about the fidelity as much as you cared about battery life. Maybe you're going to go on a plane, the plane ride is 4 hours long, and you want to be able to play Tomb Raider for as long as possible, right? And you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of graphical fidelity. Maybe there's a a graphic configuration that somebody has uploaded that has a lot of upvotes. People seem to like it a lot. It has a good compromise between battery life and graphical quality that you could download and install. And I really thought that was going to be something that they were working towards, or that we'd hear an official response that this is something that we want to have Q1 2024 or something like that. But I really would like to see something like that. I think it'd be an awesome feature, and I think that the community implementation of this is lacking, right? Going to websites to see what other people have done, maybe tinkering it with it yourself. It would really be cool to have it just sort of work out of the box. So like, if all these things were to be implemented in the Steam Deck installs that I'm talking about, like you would go to install Doom Eternal, you would get a much smaller installation size than you would have if you installed it on your desktop PC. And it would automatically run at optimized settings that you can go and download changes for if you're interested in not tinkering with it yourself, and you just want somebody who maybe has a lot more free time that has figured out a really good way to play on the Steam Deck. So that's my number. Okay, so that's it for this video. Let me know if you think that these are bad ideas, or if you think that maybe there's something that should be prioritized more than this, that's more software related and isn't just asking for infinite battery life and an awesome screen. But yeah, I have been playing with the Steam Deck a lot, and I'm planning to make more and more videos on the Steam Deck. So if you do like these videos, make sure that you subscribe, and let me know in the comments if there's a video idea that you have that you'd like me to explore.